Lots to talk about in today's video, the first thing being a big storm coming for parts of the east this week and into the weekend in El Nino-like fashion as the storm rides up the I-95 corridor. We've got a cross-country storm likely after that could cause major disruptions towards Thanksgiving week. Plus, I've got my first official Thanksgiving forecast right here.
One Nation Weather.
On your screen now is the order of things I'll be covering, so if you want to go ahead and take a look at that real quick, pause your screen so you can skip ahead to what you need to see. We're going to be covering everything from this Florida soaker here to a system at about 10 to 15 days down the line. So let's go ahead and get into this Florida soaker first. It's been moving along the Gulf Coast, bringing honestly much needed rain and not much flooding with it, but the flooding is really going to get going as a secondary area of low pressure feeds off of the first one. The first one's been riding the Gulf Coast. You can see it right there into portions of southern Alabama, the panhandle of Florida, weakening, transferring the energy to a new low pressure system into southeastern Florida, and this is going to bring big rainfall impacts to portions of Miami, Fort Lauderdale, the Space Coast even as well for you there in Florida, so prepare for very hefty downpours, and these showers could produce a very quick 6 inches of rain in a place like Miami, even up towards West Palm Beach. 4 to 6 inches of rain expected from the Weather Prediction Center, with locally higher totals, maybe up to a foot in a couple of these storms, and that is very dangerous rainfall right there, and that's why we have a level 3 of 4 flood risk in southeast Florida. Wouldn't be shocked if there's a little bit of flooding in the panhandle with that first system, but overall most of the energy is going to be transferred to right here. Now once we get beyond that, the further timing of this system brings it up the east coast. Now all the models so far have pretty much kept this skimming right along the eastern coast. Now what's interesting about this is this could gain some sort of minor tropical characteristics as it does so. Right now, though, it looks like it'll be off the mid-Atlantic coastline as a fairly strong low-pressure system, only really bringing wind right along the coastline, though, and some big waves. Not much rainfall skimming the mid-Atlantic coastline anyway. There will be a front coming in from the west. That's going to kind of help to keep this offshore overall. But kind of like what we saw with, say, Hurricane Lee, we're going to see it make a landfall here into portions of Maine as well as Atlantic Canada. And that system, I call it a landfall. It's really probably not going to be a named system. But what it is going to be is a low-pressure system that will bring some hefty rainfall and maybe some snowfall here to parts of the interior northeast. But again, nothing really big in the snow department yet this year for parts of the east coast. And this system looks to keep up that trend. So overall, impacts from this system setup, the heaviest rainfall for you there into southern Florida especially. You can see kind of a break in the precip through the mid-Atlantic, and then it picks back up in the northeast with maybe some snowfall for you there in northern Vermont, New Hampshire, as well as Maine. The rainfall could be very heavy for you there along the Maine coastline as well with some gusty winds. And then, of course, some lighter rain back on off towards the Great Lakes as well with that front that comes in and helps to push that off. But overall, the rainfall there will be on the lower side of things. Now, with your temperature anomalies ahead of the next system, again, I know I've been like a broken record talking about this warmth coming to the country, but this is abnormal, 10, 20 degrees above what you can normally expect. If you should be near 50, you're going to be near 60, even 70 degrees. Anyway, that's beyond the point. Let's talk about exactly those anomalies. You can see them moving eastward with that little front. Again, that's the one moving through the Great Lakes to help push that system offshore. Overall, though, the entire model consensus here is that we get warmth building back into the plains behind this, a resurgence of southerly flow. And this is going to be some direct southerly flow, bringing 10 to 20 degree anomalies for you here into portions of the Arklatex as well as the north central as things dry out temporarily. But cooler air moving in from the west, what that's really indicative of is a system moving out of California. I talked about that system in the last video, bringing hefty rainfall totals to California over the next few days. That system really pushing on over and becoming a surface low over the plains could bring some storm chances up over especially the central and southern plains by that point. So let's talk about that next system with the European model, and really this is as we go towards, say, the beginning of your Thanksgiving week, Sunday the 19th, and towards our Monday the 20th of November for us. We're looking at some showers developing into portions of, say, Nebraska, Kansas, as well as on down into Oklahoma, as well as northeastern Texas. This is a busy travel time. It's the weekend before Thanksgiving. We might see some people already heading over to relatives' house for the entire week, say. And we're looking at this system beginning to get going. Even if you're starting to travel on Monday, looking like maybe some feisty storm coverage moving eastward from the Arklatex towards Mississippi, if you're following the Euro model, solution for that time frame. You can see some snowfall wrapping back around behind that. Overall, very tightly packed isobars, and with this system, it pretty much turns into an all-rain event, except for, again, far northwestern Nebraska as well as western Kansas. As it moves eastward, we begin to see kind of a cold front develop on this. Again, it's kind of a more southerly tracking low for this time of the year, which is really interesting. This isn't like a whole country front kind of thing. In fact, it's going to lift from portions of Arklatex on over and towards the northeast. and as it does so, it's going to drag a front all the way across the entire east coast. So areas in the Midwest might be spared, but the further it moves east, the further north it's going to go, and the entire front will drag all the way back down the coast. So expect rainfall for us here for the entire east coast as we head pretty much towards our Tuesday, the 21st, as well as towards Wednesday, the 22nd. So really playing it pretty tightly for us there with your Thanksgiving travel. As we go towards our next system with the GFS model, there's a low pressure system a little further north that the GFS has here, which would be a little bit more typical, I guess, for this time of the year to see a front like that. This would bring in more cooler air, one, behind the front, and two, it's really going to just drag this through the Midwest as well with some snowfall chances there. So that's what's really different. No surface low in the south central plains. That will help a little bit to have some of the energy already there from that California system. Essentially, though, in the long run, as this moves towards the East Coast, this wouldn't play much of a role, as either way, whether it's a low that originated in Canada or a low that moved up into Canada, we're looking at impacts all along the East Coast. So I would expect some sort of pretty significant impacts along the East Coast as we go towards our 21st, 22nd, maybe even at the very start of Thanksgiving. But overall, things look to be drying up on your Thanksgiving and maybe warming up for some places back, especially west of the plains. So I've got a few graphics I want to show you. This is custom graphic number 1, areas I would watch for severe weather November 19th through 23rd. Now this is just an overall area. I'm not highlighting any area with a higher chance than anywhere else, but what I am showing you here is just the overall zone I would watch, and it's from the mid-south into the southeast. I know this looks pretty broad, and it is pretty broad because really we need to time this system out more to get the better details on the chance for severe weather. We could see flooding in that zone as well, but what's really interesting here as we go towards our Thanksgiving forecast, is there the potential that could be very oddly quiet on Thanksgiving itself? That's what it's looking like here with some of the projections from the Euro, even the GFS model agreeing on this, maybe a system in the Mountain West, but that front being off the East Coast could bring some Arctic air on Thanksgiving. That's what we've seen in some runs. So really that's still up in the air because some of the models have shown that. Others have fallen off the table on that. For example, the Euro was initially showing some Arctic air. Now it's not. There's just a lot of confusion in the models that needs to be broken down. But overall, what I would expect for temperatures versus average on Thanksgiving Day, a little bit below normal along the East Coast and a little bit above normal on the West Coast, with kind of the equal chances in the plains as I see it right now. I'm not expecting any huge anomalies. I'm not expecting anywhere in the plains to be too far from average. But again, this could change because we're seeing differing models right now. So while this is an official graphic, I wouldn't call it the final forecast, obviously, as we've got several more days to go to get closer to this event. So treat this as a graphic to watch and to see some edits to, but this is a good start for you here. Last thing I want to talk about is the tropics update. We've got this system here in the southern Caribbean. The chances of it developing have gone down just a little bit. I know I was talking about the chance for it to be a hurricane a few days ago. That was something that the models were really indicating. Now that's not showing as much, but what's still there is the chance for extremely heavy rainfall, half a foot to a foot of rain, especially for parts of eastern Jamaica, but especially Hispaniola for us there, so Haiti and the DR. Be ready for that. But what's interesting is this is kind of combining with that system right off the southeast coast, which does have a low-end chance of development now, that one that's going to be riding on up towards the northeast. So you can again see the attachment here as that system moves up the coastline of the northeast U.S. especially. Look at how that's essentially its own front, and on the southern end of that front really getting torn apart a little bit by this and just pulled into the front is that system, or what's left of it over the Caribbean. So that's kind of why the chance for the development there is going down a little bit, and it's becoming just a little bit quicker for it to have to do so because this system is abnormally strong in comparison to what the models were showing just a little bit ago. So anyway, thank you so much for being with me throughout this video. I would really appreciate it if you would like, subscribe, comment, all of that. Here are the credits, everyone, and have a great day.